The message came at midnight, wrapped in the golden seal of the Galactic Council. General Park Yuna read it 3 times before she believed it. After 200 years of tension, the Council wanted peace. They invited her and 2 other human generals to the neutral planet of Varys Prime for negotiations. Yuna stood by the window of her flagship and looked at the stars. She was 53 years old, with gray streaks in her black hair and scars on her hands from battles she rarely spoke about. She commanded the 7th Human Fleet, 40,000 soldiers who would follow her into any fire. But she was tired of fire. She wanted her soldiers to grow old. She wanted children to stop learning the names of dead heroes. She accepted the invitation. General Kim Hanna received the same message on Earth. She ran the Diplomatic Security Division, protecting human ambassadors across 100 worlds. She was smaller than Yuna, quieter, but her eyes missed nothing. She had killed 17 assassins in her career, always with her bare hands, always to protect someone else. Her soldiers called her the Shield because she had never lost anyone under her protection. Hannah did not trust the Council. She had watched them lie for 3 centuries. But she also knew that peace required someone to take the first step into the dark. She packed her dress uniform and left for Varys Prime. General Lee Mira was the youngest of the 3. At 41, she led human intelligence operations. She knew secrets that could destroy governments. She knew the names of spies on 100 worlds. She was brilliant and cold, and many people feared her. But those who knew her well knew something else. They knew she kept photographs of dead agents in her desk. They knew she wrote letters to their families every year. They knew that beneath her ice, there was a woman who carried the weight of every life lost under her command. When the invitation came, Mira ran every analysis she could. She found no evidence of a trap. Every signal suggested the Council genuinely wanted peace. She was wrong. The 3 generals met on Varys Prime in a hall of white stone and golden light. Representatives from all 12 council races filled the seats around them. The Keth were there, tall and gray with eyes like black glass. The Melior were there, their scales shining blue under the lights. And many others, species that had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years before humanity crawled out of its caves. High Chancellor Vorn of the Keth Empire stood at the center podium. He was ancient, his gray skin wrinkled like old paper, his voice like stones grinding together. "We welcome the human delegation," he said. "Today we discuss peace between our peoples." General Yuna stood and bowed her head slightly. "The United Human Territories thank the Council for this opportunity. We come in good faith, seeking an end to hostility." For an hour, they talked. They discussed trade routes and territorial boundaries. They spoke of past conflicts and future cooperation. Yuna began to feel something she had not felt in years. Hope. Then, Admiral Rax of the Melior Dominion stood. He was younger than Vorn, his blue scales bright, his teeth sharp. He smiled, and there was no warmth in it. "Before we continue," Rax said, "the Council must address a matter of security." Yuna felt the air change. Beside her, Hannah's hand moved slightly toward her hidden weapon. Myra's eyes scanned the room, counting exits, measuring distances. "We have evidence," Rax continued, "that the human military has been conducting espionage against Council races. We have evidence of plans for invasion. We have evidence of weapons development that violates 17 treaties." "That is a lie," Yuna said calmly. "We have done no such thing." Rax ignored her. "The Council has voted. General Park Yuna, General Kim Hanna, and General Lee Mira are found guilty of crimes against galactic peace." Guards appeared from every door. Not Keth guards or Melior guards, but soldiers from a dozen races, their weapons pointed at the 3 women. Hannah drew her sidearm, but a blast of energy struck her hand before she could fire. She fell to her knees, clutching her burned fingers. Mira tried to reach for her communication device, but 2 guards grabbed her arms and forced them behind her back. Yuna did not move. She looked at Vorn with steady eyes. "You know these charges are false," she said. "Why are you doing this?" Vorn's ancient face showed nothing. Humanity grows too fast. You threaten the balance of power. This is necessary. This is murder. This is politics. They dragged the three generals to the center of the hall. Cameras floated around them, broadcasting to every world in the galaxy. Billions of beings watched as the three women were forced to their knees. Rax walked behind them, a plasma pistol in his hand. "Let this be a lesson to humanity," he announced. "There are consequences for ambition." General Hannah looked at her friends. Blood dripped from her burned hand, but she smiled. "It was an honor serving with you." General Mira closed her eyes. She thought of the agents she had lost, the families she had written to. Soon someone would write to her family. She hoped they would say she was brave. General Yuna looked directly at the camera. She spoke clearly, her voice reaching every human world. "You have no idea what you have just awakened." Rax pulled the trigger 3 times. The galaxy watched as 3 women fell. 3 generals. 3 heroes. 3 daughters of Earth. On 100 human worlds, people stopped what they were doing. They watched the broadcast in silence. Soldiers dropped their weapons. Children asked their parents why the women were sleeping on the floor. Parents could not answer. On Earth, in a secret facility beneath the mountains, Admiral Chodeh watched the execution on a small screen. His face was stone. His hands shook. Beside him, President Baek-Su covered her mouth to stop herself from screaming. "They killed them," she whispered. "They actually killed them." Admiral Day turned off the screen. He stood in silence for a long moment. "Contact Colonel Kongjin," he said finally. "Tell him his students are dead." The aide hesitated. "Sir, Colonel Kong has been in retirement for 20 years. He is over 100 years old. What can he possibly do?" Admiral Day looked at the young man with old, tired eyes. "He is the Baba Yaga," he said. "And the Council has just made the worst mistake in galactic history." On the planet of Varys Prime, High Chancellor Vorn watched the bodies being removed. He felt satisfied. The message had been sent. Humanity would fall in line. He did not know that across the galaxy, in a small house on Earth's moon, an old man had just finished watching the same broadcast. The old man sat in silence for 1 minute. Then, he stood and walked to a door he had not opened in 20 years. Inside was a room full of weapons. Colonel Kongjin began to prepare. 3 days passed after the execution. The galaxy waited for humanity to respond. They expected angry messages. They expected threats. They expected demands. They received nothing. Every human ambassador left their post without a word. Every human trade ship returned to Earth. Every human colony went dark. Communication channels that had been open for 300 years suddenly went silent. The Galactic Council grew nervous. "Perhaps they are afraid," Admiral Rax said in the council chamber. "They saw what happens to those who challenge us." High Chancellor Vorn was not so sure. He had studied humans for a long time. He knew they did not go silent when they were afraid. They went silent when they were planning. "Increase border patrols," he ordered. "Double the guard on all council worlds. And find out what the humans are doing." But the spies sent to human space never returned. The ships sent to investigate found nothing. It was as if humanity had simply vanished from the galaxy. On Earth's moon, in a facility that did not exist on any official record, Admiral Chodeh walked down a long corridor. His footsteps echoed on the metal floor. Armed guards stood at every door, but they did not challenge him. Everyone knew the Admiral. He stopped at a door marked with a simple number, 7. Behind this door was the man he had come to see. Admiral Day had known Kongjin for 60 years. He had watched Jean fight in wars that were now taught in history books. He had seen Jean do impossible things with calm eyes and steady hands. And he had hoped, truly hoped, that Jean would never need to work again. But hope was a luxury they could no longer afford. He opened the door. The room inside was simple. A bed. A table. A chair. And an old man standing by the window, looking at Earth hanging in the black sky. Kong Jean did not look like a weapon. He was thin and gray, with a face lined by more than a century of life. He wore simple clothes. He moved slowly. Anyone who saw him would think he was just a tired old man waiting for death. They would be wrong. "Jean," Admiral Day said softly. The old man did not turn around. "I watched it happen, Day. I watched them die. I know. Yuna was my first student. I found her when she was 17, angry at the world, too smart for her own good. I taught her patience. I taught her strategy. I taught her that true strength comes from protecting others." Jin's voice was calm, but Day heard the cracks beneath it. Hannah came next. She was quiet, always watching. People underestimated her because of her size. I taught her to use that. I taught her to be invisible until she needed to be seen. She became the greatest protector in human history. He paused. And Mira. Little Mira with her big questions. She wanted to understand everything. I taught her that knowledge is power, but wisdom is knowing when not to use it. Jean finally turned around. His eyes were dry, but something burned behind them. Something old and dangerous. They were not just my students, Day. They were my family. The council did not execute 3 generals. They murdered 3 daughters. Admiral Day nodded. That is why I am here. The president has authorized Protocol Yaga. Jean walked to the table and picked up a photograph. 3 young women in military uniforms, smiling at the camera. He looked at it for a long moment, then placed it in his pocket. I do not need authorization, he said quietly. I was going to do this whether you asked me or not. I know. But you will have support this time. Captain Yuntae and the stealth ship Silent Fury will take you anywhere you need to go. Lieutenant Onari has volunteered to be your partner. Jean raised an eyebrow. Nari? The sniper from the Red Moon incident? The same. She studied under Hannah. She wants revenge too. Jean nodded slowly. Very well. I will accept her help. He walked to a wall and pressed his hand against it. A hidden panel slid open, revealing a room that made Admiral Day's blood run cold. Weapons. Dozens of them. Some were blades, ancient designs from old Earth. Some were guns, custom-made for silent killing. Some were tools that Day did not recognize and did not want to understand. Jean selected each item carefully, placing them on his body with practiced ease. A knife here. A pistol there. Devices that Day had never seen in any military catalog. The council thinks they know war, Jean said as he worked. They have fought wars with fleets and armies. They have destroyed planets and burned cities. But they do not know true fear. He turned to face Day. Despite his age, despite his gray hair and lined face, he suddenly seemed younger. Stronger. More dangerous than any weapon in the room. I am going to teach them. 3 hours later, Jean stood in the bridge of the Silent Fury. The ship was small, barely 50 meters long, but it was the most advanced stealth vessel in human space. Its hull was covered in materials that ate radar signals. Its engines made no heat signature. It could pass through any defense grid in the galaxy without being seen. Captain Yuntae sat in the command chair. He was young, only 35, with sharp eyes and quick hands. He had volunteered for this mission knowing he might not survive. Colonel Kong, he said, standing to salute. It is an honor. Jean waved the salute away. No formalities, Captain. We have work to do. Where is Lieutenant O? Here, sir. Nari stepped forward from the shadows. She was tall for a woman, with short black hair and a scar across her left cheek. On her back, she carried a rifle that looked like it could punch through ship armor. "General Hannah was my mentor," she said. Her voice was flat, controlled. "I was supposed to be on Varys Prime with her, but she ordered me to stay behind. She saved my life. And now you want to avenge hers?" "Yes, sir." Jean studied her for a moment, then nodded. "Good. We will work well together." He turned to a holographic display showing the galaxy. 47 names floated in the air, each one connected to the execution of his students. "This is our target list," Jean said. "Every council member who voted for the execution. Every officer who helped plan it. Every soldier who stood guard while it happened." Captain Tay looked at the list with wide eyes. "Colonel, some of these people are the most protected beings in the galaxy. Admiral Rax has an entire armada around him. High Chancellor Vorn never leaves his fortress world." Jean smiled. It was not a kind smile. "I have killed protected men before, Captain. The Council believes they are safe because they have armies. But armies cannot stop what they cannot see. Armies cannot fight what they cannot understand." He pointed to the first name on the list. Councillor Melos, the politician who had signed the execution order. "We start with him. He lives on a fortress world with 3 defense fleets and planetary shields. His security team numbers over 10,000. Captain Tay swallowed. "How do we get past all that?" Jin's smile grew wider. "We walk through the front door." The silent fury turned toward the stars and vanished into the dark. Behind them, on 100 human worlds, a message was being prepared. Soon the galaxy would receive a list of 47 names. Soon the galaxy would learn that humans did not forgive. Soon the galaxy would remember why their ancestors had feared the dark. The hunt had begun. Councillor Melos could not sleep. He had not slept properly since the execution 2 weeks ago. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the faces of the 3 human women. He saw their defiance. He heard their final words. "You have no idea what you have just awakened." He told himself he was being foolish. He lived on Fortress Keth, the most protected planet in the Dominion. 3 defense fleets circled the planet at all times. Orbital platforms with enough firepower to destroy a moon floated in perfect formation. 10,000 guards patrolled his estate. Nothing could touch him here. He repeated this to himself as he walked through his bedroom, a glass of wine in his hand. The windows showed the night sky, filled with the lights of patrol ships moving in endless patterns. Safe. He was safe. Then, the lights went out. Melos froze. The room was suddenly dark, the only light coming from the stars outside. He heard voices in the corridor, guards shouting questions. Emergency alarms should have sounded, but there was only silence. "Guards," he called. His voice shook. "Guards, come here immediately." No response. He backed toward the wall, reaching for the panic button hidden behind a painting. His fingers touched it, pressed it. Nothing happened. "Looking for this?" The voice came from the darkness. Melos spun around, his heart pounding. He could see nothing. The shadows were too deep. "Who is there?" he demanded. "Do you know who I am?" "I am Councillor Melos of the Keth Empire." "I will have you executed." A figure stepped out of the darkness. An old man, thin and gray, with calm eyes that reflected the starlight. He held a small device in one hand and a knife in the other. "I know exactly who you are," Colonel Kong Jin said softly. "You are the man who signed the execution order. You are the man who watched 3 innocent women die and felt nothing. You are the first name on my list." Melos tried to run. He made it 3 steps before Jean appeared in front of him, moving faster than any old man should move. The knife pressed against his throat, cold and sharp. "Please," Melos gasped. "Please, I was just following orders. Vorn and Rax planned everything. I only signed the paper. You only signed the paper, Jean repeated. You only authorized the murder of 3 women who wanted peace. You only destroyed the hope of billions. I can give you information. I can tell you where Vorn is hiding. I can give you access codes, security details, anything you want. Jean was silent for a moment. Then, he shook his head. I already have that information. Lieutenant O? A red dot appeared on Melas's chest. From somewhere in the darkness, Nari had her rifle aimed at his heart. The shot is ready, Colonel. Jean looked at Melas with something that might have been pity. General Park Yuna taught me that every enemy deserves a chance to die with dignity. I will give you that chance. Do you have any last words? Melas opened his mouth to beg for his life. But, looking into Jin's eyes, he realized it would make no difference. This old man had not come to negotiate. He had come to deliver justice. Make it quick, Melas whispered. Jean nodded. The knife moved once, fast and precise. Melas fell to the floor without making a sound. Jean stood over the body for a moment. Then, he dipped his finger in blood and walked to the wall. He wrote a single word in the ancient Russian language of his grandmother. 1. The next morning, the galaxy woke up to chaos. Counselor Melas was dead, killed in the most secure bedroom on one of the most protected planets in known space. The 3 defense fleets had seen nothing. The 10,000 guards had heard nothing. The security cameras showed only static. High Chancellor Vorn received the news on his throne world. His gray hands trembled as he read the report. How, he demanded. How is this possible? Admiral Rax stood beside him, his blue scales darker than usual. We do not know, Chancellor. The humans must have sent an entire Special Forces team. It is the only explanation. But, even as he said it, Rax did not believe it. An entire team would have left traces. There would have been ship signatures, energy readings, something. This attack had left nothing. Then, the message arrived. It appeared on every screen in the galaxy simultaneously. A simple list of 47 names, each with a timer counting down beside it. At the top of the screen was a symbol, a single human skull. And, beneath the list, a single sentence in Universal Standard, they killed 3. I will kill 47. The council races erupted in panic. Politicians who saw their names on the list demanded protection. Military leaders ordered their fleets to maximum alert. Entire governments went into lockdown. But, the deaths continued. 2 days after Melas, General Vark of the Melior military was found dead in his flagship. He had been in his command center, surrounded by 300 crew members. No one saw anything. No one heard anything. They simply found his body slumped in his chair, a human knife through his heart. Written on the view screen. 2. 3 days later, Admiral Keth of the Orbital Defense Command died in a bunker 3 miles underground. The bunker had one entrance, guarded by 50 soldiers. The security logs showed no one entering or leaving. But, the Admiral was dead, and, on the wall was written. 3. Captain Yunte watched the news reports from the bridge of the Silent Fury. He shook his head in wonder. Colonel, how are you doing this? These targets are impossible to reach. Jean sat in the corner, cleaning one of his knives. Nothing is impossible, Captain. The Council has spent 10,000 years building walls. They believe walls keep them safe. But, walls only work against enemies who try to go through them. And, you? Jean smiled. I go around. I go under. I go through the cracks they did not know existed. General Lee Mira taught me to see what others cannot see. Every security system has weaknesses. Every fortress has blind spots. I simply find them. Lieutenant Onari walked in, her rifle over her shoulder. The next target is moving, Colonel. Senator Vex is relocating to a hidden space station. Good. Hidden stations are easier than fortress planets. Less guards, more fear. He stood and walked to the navigation console. His movements were smooth now, no longer the slow shuffle of an old man. The mission had given him purpose. The hunt had given him strength. Set course for the outer regions, he ordered. And broadcast another message to the council. What message, sir? Jean looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the council leaders were hiding, trembling, wondering if they would be next. Tell them this: every hour they do not surrender, another name will disappear from the list. Every day they remain in power, another one of them will die. I am not an army. I am not a fleet. I am one man with a promise. And I keep my promises. The message went out across the galaxy. And, on 100 council worlds, powerful beings who had never known fear began to understand what it meant to be hunted. Senator Vex saw the message on his private screen. He looked at his name on the list, watched the timer counting down. He had voted for the execution because everyone else had. He had not even thought about it. Now he could think of nothing else. He called for more guards. He demanded faster ships. He ran to the farthest corner of the galaxy. But, deep inside, he knew the truth. The Baba Yaga was coming. And no one could stop him. 1 month had passed since the execution. 23 names had disappeared from the list. 23 of the galaxy's most powerful and protected beings had died, each one killed in a place that should have been impossible to reach. And the galaxy had begun to break. The Keth Empire declared emergency law on all its worlds. Citizens were forbidden to travel. Communications were monitored. Soldiers patrolled every street. But it made no difference. A Keth general died in his own bathroom, guarded by 100 soldiers standing just outside the door. The Melior Dominion pulled its fleets back to defend its home systems. They abandoned 3 colonial regions, leaving millions of their people unprotected. Fear had overcome duty. 3 of the 12 council races formally withdrew from the alliance. The Varrock sent a secret message to humanity, apologizing for their vote and begging for mercy. The Tauren refused to attend any more council meetings. The Drevs simply went silent, their entire civilization retreating behind closed borders. High Chancellor Vorn watched his coalition crumble from his throne on Ethon Prime. He had ruled the galaxy for 200 years. He had crushed rebellions and destroyed civilizations. He had never known defeat. Now he knew fear. We must strike at Earth, he said to the remaining council leaders. We must destroy humanity before they destroy us. Admiral Rax shook his head. With what forces, Chancellor? Half our fleets are guarding individual leaders. The other half are too afraid to leave their home systems. And, even if we gathered an armada, what would we attack? Humanity has hidden everything. We do not know where their shipyards are. We do not know how many ships they have. We do not even know if Earth is still their capital. Then, what do you suggest? Rax's blue scales rippled with anxiety. I suggest we negotiate. We offer reparations. We admit our mistake. We give them whatever they want. Vorn slammed his fist against his throne. Never. We are the Galactic Council. We do not bow to primitive apes. But, even as he spoke, another notification appeared on his screen. Senator Vex was dead. The timer beside his name had reached 0, and now his corpse was floating in the wreckage of his hidden space station. Written in the debris, spelled out with the bodies of dead guards. 24. Admiral Rax stared at the screen. His name was on the list. His timer was still counting down, but he knew it was only a matter of time. He made his decision. I am leaving, Chancellor, he announced. I am taking my personal fleet and fortifying my command station. If the human comes for me, I will be ready. Vorn's black eyes narrowed. You would abandon the council? The council is already dead, Chancellor. We just have not realized it yet. Rax walked out of the throne room and never looked back. He gathered 500 warships around his command station. 500 of the most powerful vessels in the Melior Dominion, arranged in perfect defensive formation. Fighters patrolled every approach. Sensors scanned every frequency. Weapons were charged and ready. He sat in his command center, surrounded by screens showing every angle of his protection. No one could reach him now. Not an army. Not a fleet. Not even the Baba Yaga. 3 days passed. Nothing happened. Rax began to relax. Perhaps the human had given up. Perhaps the defenses were too strong. Perhaps he was finally safe. Then, the message arrived. It appeared on his personal screen, bypassing every security system. Your ships protect you from fleets. I am not a fleet. Rax jumped to his feet. Full alert. Scan everything. Find the human ship. His officers worked frantically at their stations. Sensors swept space in every direction. Fighters launched from every bay. But they found nothing. Sir, there is nothing out there, his second-in-command reported. No ships, no signals, no anomalies. We are completely alone. Rax wanted to believe him. He stared at the screens, searching for any sign of danger. Then, the lights went out. Emergency power activated, painting the command center in red. Rax heard shouts from the corridor outside. He heard weapons firing. He heard screams. Then, silence. The door to his command center slid open. A figure stood in the doorway, silhouetted by the red emergency lights. Behind the figure, Rax could see the bodies of his guards lying on the floor. Admiral Rax, Kung Jin said as he stepped into the room. We finally meet. Rax drew his sidearm and fired. The shot went wide, punching a hole in the wall behind Jin. The old man had moved faster than Rax's eyes could follow. Jin was beside him now, one hand gripping Rax's wrist, twisting until the weapon fell to the floor. How? Rax gasped. How did you get past 500 ships? Jin released his wrist and stepped back. Your ships are impressive, Admiral. But they were designed to fight other ships. They were not designed to detect a vessel that appears on no sensors. They were not designed to stop a man who does not need a ship to move between stars. Rax did not understand. He did not want to understand. He fell to his knees, his blue scales pale with fear. Kill me then, he said. Kill me and be done with it. Jin looked down at him. For a long moment, he said nothing. I am not going to kill you, Admiral. Rax looked up in shock. What? General Kim Hanna believed that some enemies are worth more alive than dead. You gave the order to fire. You pulled the trigger that killed my students. But you are not the true enemy. You are just a weapon. Vorn is the hand that wielded you. Jin walked to the main screen and activated it. The image of High Chancellor Vorn appeared, sitting on his throne, watching the events unfold through a spy feed. Hello, Chancellor, Jin said. I wanted you to see this. I wanted you to know that I can reach anyone, anywhere, anytime. Your admiral, surrounded by 500 ships, could not stop me. Your senators, hidden in secret bunkers, could not hide from me. Your generals, protected by armies, could not escape me. He turned back to Rax, who was still kneeling on the floor. I am leaving the admiral alive, Chancellor. He will return to you and tell you exactly what happened here. He will tell you that I walked through his defenses like they were made of air. He will tell you that I could have killed everyone on this station, but I chose not to. Jin leaned closer to the screen. And he will tell you this, tomorrow, I am coming for you. The screen went dark. Jin looked at Lieutenant Onari, who had appeared in the doorway, her rifle trained on the surviving officers. We are done here, Lieutenant. Let us go. They walked out together, leaving Admiral Rax kneeling in the wreckage of his confidence. Behind them, the command station's lights slowly flickered back on. As the Silent Fury slipped away through the Melior fleet, another message went out across the galaxy. This time, it was not from Jean. It was from Earth. The human fleet emerged from hidden shipyards throughout the galaxy. Thousands of vessels, each one more advanced than anything the Council had ever seen. They did not attack. They did not threaten. They simply appeared, filling the space around every Council world. President Beck-Su appeared on every screen in the galaxy. "The Galactic Council executed 3 innocent women," she said, her voice calm and cold. "They believed humanity was weak. They believed we would accept this insult. They were wrong." Behind her, the image showed the human fleet in formation. "Our fleet will not fire unless provoked. We are not here for war. We are here for justice. And justice will be delivered." Colonel Kong Jean has one more name on his list. The image changed to show High Chancellor Vorn on his throne, his black eyes wide with terror. "Tomorrow, the Baba Yaga comes for the Chancellor. And, when he is finished, the Council will answer for what it has done." The message ended. On 100 worlds, Council citizens looked at their leaders with new eyes. They saw the fear. They saw the weakness. They saw the end of an era. And, in the darkness of space, the Silent Fury continued toward Ethon Prime. The final hunt had begun. Ethon Prime was the heart of the Galactic Council. For 10,000 years, the Great Hall at its center had witnessed treaties and declarations that shaped the destiny of billions. Kings had knelt here. Civilizations had risen and fallen by decisions made within these walls. Now the hall was silent, its golden pillars dark, its marble floors empty. High Chancellor Vorn sat alone on his throne. He had sent away his guards, dismissed his advisors, and locked the great doors. He knew it would make no difference. The human would come regardless. The human had walked through armies and fleets. A locked door would not stop him. Outside, the human fleet hung in space like a ring of steel. They did not attack. They did not need to. Their presence was enough. Every Council race could see them. Every Council world knew what was coming. Vorn had tried to flee. He had tried to negotiate. He had tried everything he could think of. Nothing worked. The humans had blocked every escape route. They had rejected every offer. They wanted only one thing. Him. The great doors began to open. Vorn watched as a single figure walked down the long hall. An old man with gray hair and calm eyes, his footsteps echoing in the silence. He carried no visible weapons, but Vorn knew that meant nothing. "Colonel Kong Jean," Vorn said. His voice did not shake. He was too old, too tired for fear now. "The Baba Yaga. The ghost who walks through walls. I have heard many stories about you these past weeks." Jean stopped at the base of the throne. "I am sure you have. Most of them are probably true. Have you come to kill me?" Jean was silent for a moment. He looked around the great hall, at the symbols of power that decorated every surface. Statues of ancient rulers. Flags of conquered worlds. The history of galactic domination, carved in stone and gold. "I came to show you something," he said finally. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small device. A holographic projection appeared in the air between them. It showed the execution on Varys Prime, but from a new angle. The camera was looking up, as if from the position of someone on their knees. It was from General Yuna's perspective. Vorn watched as his own image appeared on the projection, his gray face cold and satisfied. He watched as Admiral Rax walked behind the 3 women with his weapon drawn. He watched as Yuna looked at the camera, at him, her eyes filled not with fear, but with sadness. "You thought we were the weakest race," Yuna's voice said. "We were simply the most patient." The shot came. The image went dark. Jean put the device away. That was the last thing General Park Yuna saw. Her killer, smiling. Her executioner, feeling nothing. And, you, sitting on your throne, believing you had one. Vorn's ancient hands gripped the arms of his throne. She was a soldier. She knew the risks of her position. Death in service of one's government is. She was not a soldier that day, Jean interrupted. She was a diplomat. She came to talk about peace. She came because she believed that even enemies could become friends. He took a step closer. General Kim Hannah spent her entire life protecting others. She never started a fight in her life. She only ended them when there was no other choice. She begged you for mercy, not for herself, but for the peace process she believed in. Another step. General Lee Mira was the youngest. She was brilliant and careful, and she analyzed your invitation for weeks before accepting it. She found no evidence of a trap because you hid it so well. She died believing she had failed. Jean was at the throne now, looking down at the ancient chancellor with eyes that burned with cold fire. They were my students. I trained them from the time they were young. I watched them grow into the finest officers humanity has ever produced. I loved them like they were my own children. His voice dropped to a whisper. And, you killed them for politics. Vorn met his eyes. Despite everything, there was still defiance in his ancient face. I did what was necessary for the stability of the galaxy. Humanity grows too fast. You adapt too quickly. In another century, you would have dominated us all. I was protecting my people. By murdering diplomats? By removing a threat. Your generals were symbols. Symbols have power. I removed that power. Jean nodded slowly. Yes. You removed 3 symbols. And, in doing so, you created a new one. He stepped back and spread his arms, indicating himself. You created the Baba Yaga. You created a story that will be told across the galaxy for 1,000 years. You created the legend of the old man who walked through armies to avenge his students. Every child in the galaxy will grow up knowing what happens when you threaten humanity. Jean lowered his arms. I am not going to kill you, Chancellor. Vorn's black eyes widened. What? Death would be too easy. Death would make you a martyr. Instead, you are going to live. You are going to watch as the council you built is dissolved. You are going to see your life's work dismantled, your legacy erased, your name become a symbol of failure and arrogance. Jean turned and walked toward the door. You are going to live for many more years, Chancellor. And every day of those years, you will remember this moment. You will remember that you lost everything because you killed 3 women who only wanted peace. He paused at the door and looked back. That is a punishment far worse than death. The doors closed behind him. Outside the Great Hall, the remaining council leaders were waiting. They had watched the confrontation through security cameras. They had seen their chancellor humiliated by a single human. They had seen the end of their power. Admiral Rax stepped forward. His scales were dull, his eyes empty. He had not been the same since his encounter with Jean. What happens now? He asked. Jean looked at the assembled leaders, the most powerful beings in the galaxy, now reduced to frightened supplicants. The council is dissolved, he said. New treaties will be written with humanity as an equal partner. Reparations will be paid to the families of the 3 generals. And a memorial will be built on Varys Prime, on the exact spot where they died. He turned to leave, then stopped. One more thing. The galaxy will remember this lesson. You will teach it to your children and your children's children. Humanity does not want war. We do not seek conquest. But we protect our own. And, when we are wronged, we do not forgive. 1 year later, the memorial was complete. It stood in the center of Varys Prime, a tower of white stone reaching toward the sky. At its base were 3 statues, life-sized, depicting 3 women in military uniforms. Their faces were calm, their eyes looking forward toward a future they would never see. Colonel Kong Jean stood before the memorial, alone. He had refused the ceremonies, the speeches, the honors that humanity had tried to give him. He did not want praise. He only wanted this moment. He placed 3 flowers at the base of the statues. 1 for each of his students. 1 for each of his daughters. I kept my promise, he said softly. The galaxy will never forget you. He stood in silence for a long time. President Beck-Su found him there as the sun began to set. She walked up beside him and looked at the statues. The new treaties have been signed, she said. The council races have accepted all our terms. Peace is finally real this time. Jean nodded but did not speak. You could have killed them all, Sue continued. Vorn, Rax, all of them. Why did you let them live? Jean considered the question for a long moment. General Yuna taught me that true victory is not about destroying your enemies. It is about showing them that there was always a better way. Vorn will spend the rest of his life knowing he could have had peace without bloodshed. He chose violence, and violence answered. But, in the end, mercy is what separates us from them. He looked at the statues one last time. They called me the Baba Yaga. The boogeyman. The monster in the dark. But, I was only ever a teacher who loved his students. Sue placed a hand on his shoulder. What will you do now? Jean smiled, and, for the first time in over a year, there was warmth in it. I will find new students. I will teach them what Yuna, Hannah, and Mira taught me. That strength comes from protecting others. That knowledge without wisdom is dangerous. That even in the darkest times, we must never lose our humanity. He began to walk away from the memorial, toward the sunset. The galaxy has learned its lesson. Now it is time to help them remember it. The inscription at the base of the memorial caught the fading light. It read, General Park Yuna. General Kim Hannah. General Lee Mira. They died with honor. The galaxy will never forget why. And, across 1,000 worlds, in 1,000 languages, children learned a new story. The story of 3 women who wanted peace. The story of a monster who was really a father. The story of what happens when humanity is pushed too far. They learned that humans do not start wars. But, they always finish them.